Solution.
You're watching the Bronx Journal, the BronxNet television edition of the multilingual community newspaper, published by the students and faculty of the Journalism, Communication, and Theater Department at Lehman College. In print and on television, the Bronx Journal covers the issues concerning the people of the Bronx. Do you want to know what's going on in the Bronx? Are you interested in Bronx politics, sports, and entertainment? Are you interested in Bronx personalities? Do you want to keep up with the latest business or cultural trends? In the Bronx Journal, we have the answers. Now here's your host, the Bronx Journal's editor-in-chief, Professor Miguel Perez.
On January 2nd of this year, a group of students and professors from Lehman College and Johns Hopkins University and Columbia University visited Peru to study the damages of one of the biggest earthquakes in that country's history. And joining us today to tell us more about the experiences is Professor Yuri Gorokovich of the Department of Environmental, Geographical, and Geological Sciences at Lehman College. Welcome to the program. It's a pleasure having you here.
Thanks for having me.
What motivated you to get this group together and go to Peru?
It started actually with a grant from National Science Foundation, which we got a year and a half ago to study natural disasters around the world, which include earthquakes, tornadoes, hurricanes, tsunamis, flooding, etc. So when the earthquake happened, it was naturally that we were interested in looking into that disaster in Peru.
All right, so when did the earthquake happen and how soon did you get started?
Well, the earthquake happened in August 15th. And at this time,
2007.
Of 2007.
Okay.
And at this time, I was not here, and my colleague also was not here, and so we couldn't just very fast get there. And then semester started, and we basically couldn't get there anyway because we had to teach. Also restrictions by Red Cross, and it was almost like a military situation there, would prevent us from going and collecting data which we need now. So we decided, let's do it after earthquake in January, when things will be a little bit easier, and then we can go and visit the country.
And you went there in January during the break from college.
Yes.
Some of the students were out, and a group of students, professors went from a couple of universities, right?
Yes. What happened is I started my job at Lehman College in September. And in September, when I started, I was, thinking how to involve students into my work. So when this project happened and we had money to do this, I was thinking about students from Lehman College. Also, we needed people who can translate from Spanish to English, English to Spanish. So that was natural to get somebody from here to go.
You needed bilingual students.
Bilingual students. I was looking for them, and I found Andrea from journalism department.
Yeah, she's one of my students.
One of them is Shiloh from our department, Environmental, Geological, Geographical Sciences, and my colleague Shannon Ducey, who is a very famous social scientist. She does study of displaced populations.
Okay, so when you got there, now you get the whole group together, you go to Peru. What is it that you're looking for?
We were looking for two things. One of them is assessment of population, who was displaced, why people were displaced, because displacement is a big problem for government. What to do with people, where they go, and how to help them. And then second thing was how to assess earthquake consequences, such as housing destruction, and what was the reason for that destruction, why houses fell down. So we can maybe help later on to government, give some recommendations on that.
Basically, your study will determine what areas maybe to build or not to build, or what kind of construction should be built in some areas that are earthquake prone?
Yes, yes. We can definitely, right now, we're still looking at the data, and we can definitely give some recommendations to government and write report. And one of the findings is, for example, is that we thought original hypothesis was that cement quality is important. And then we later realized that actually design of the houses was more important. So design of the houses, it involves money and expenses. So so government have to spend some money or some other methods to improve design of the houses.
So there's a way to build housing that is earthquake safe, or at least better for
Yes,
earthquakes?
absolutely. And even adobe housing, which is sort of main kind of housing that collapsed. But if you build it right, there is some principles which people can use. Adobe housing can definitely withstand earthquake, but you need to build it right.
So then you get to Peru, you start getting this information. Tell me about the area. I see we have a map here.
Yes.
What is the area that was hit by the earthquake, and who lives there?
Okay, here is the coast of Peru, and you see Lima here. An earthquake epicenter was somewhere on the coast in
the Pacific.
In the Pacific. And so when it happened, it affected primarily this area where cities of Ica, there is a Pisco, and there is a Chincha, and Cañete, and few other small villages. But these three main cities, Ica, Pisco, and Chincha, they suffered more.
This is a rural area of Peru?
Pisco, Ica, and Chincha have both. They have a little bit of rural and a little bit of urban, and also what we call peri-urban, which is a mixed.
And the urban centers, were they
Urban
affected?
centers were affected a lot, yeah. And you will see it in the next slide. The earthquake magnitude was about 8.2. Sometimes people, mention 7.9, but later by USGS it was estimated 8.2.
That's a pretty big one.
The biggest issue with the earthquake was it lasted for 3 minutes. Something like 160, 180 seconds.
So it was 8.2 for 3 minutes.
Yes, and that was the biggest issue, because for this amount of time the earth was shaking. People didn't know what to do, and they were running around, and so that was one of the biggest factors in this.
So it never lasts that long, do they?
No,
do they
no.
normally?
Usually earthquake lasts for like 25 seconds, 30 seconds.
Wow.
But for 160 seconds and so on, it's
Were
very
there
difficult.
aftershocks afterwards? After those 3 minutes?
They were some, but not so strong. So and then this is what you see in the red and yellow. It's a magnitude. So definitely that the most strong force of the earthquake hits the coast here, and then farther away from the coast you see like yellow, green, and so that was less damage and less intensity of the earthquake in the slides.
Okay, so you guys get there, and then what do? You start meeting with these people?
Yes,
Talking
that was
to them?
our
This is your
first
group?
meeting. That's our group. This is a first meeting with the vice president of Ica, city of Ica. This is Shannon Ducey, my colleague from Johns Hopkins University. Here is me. This is Chris Small, a guy from Columbia University, and Andrea Diaz, who is a student. She's right here, and Shiloh Herbert from our department. And all these girls are from Johns Hopkins University. They interviewed people.
And what were the students? What was their job?
These students from Johns Hopkins, their job was primarily to collect data and survey about 600, 700 households.
Basically taking a census.
Taking a census. Who
House
was
by
affected,
house.
house by house.
Wow.
How many people live, what age. It was a survey form with about 60 questions, and Andrea can tell you probably more later.
Okay, I'm sure she
so
can.
about
She's
that
gonna
and
be on
how
with us in a
it was
minute.
done. As the tricky part was it's in Spanish. So it's a lot of like meanings, not just direct translation, but what actually things mean in the local context. Because Peruvian Spanish, as I understand, is different from other Spanish languages.